Welcome to this episode of Man on the Run Meals, also known as MOTRmeals. This is the second installment of our expert interview sessions for 2018. We're here today at Primal Gym in Hamilton, New Jersey with the head instructor, Jim McCann. McCann has over 40 years of experience in the martial arts, during which time he's accumulated many different black belts and certifications. Aside from this, he's trained different branches of the U.S. military, specifically the Marines, the Army, the Navy, the Special Forces, and the Air Force, as well as different agencies such as the FBI, the CIA, the DEA, and the local state police. Aside from this, McCann has experience as a competitive fighter, as well as the opportunity in his life to bring martial arts to the real world as a bouncer at City Gardens, which during its heydays was one of the meccas of underground music on the East Coast. Thank you for your time today.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, man.
All the time you've dedicated to the martial arts, you've acquired a mind-boggling amount of black belts.
Mind-boggling, yeah.
Certifications.
Yeah.
How?
Right. Because early on, okay, I had physical issues. I had braces on my legs and on my feet when I was a young kid. When I was doing traditional martial arts, what they made me do is that you had to do it the way they wanted me to do it. You know, you kick in this, your leg goes up, you kick the bag, your leg goes back, goes up. Well, my hips don't work that way. Never from day one. I have almost no flexibility. I kick you in the head, but it's my way. So I remember being at the class and I'm going, you know, well, you're not trying hard enough, you're not stretching hard. I remember that being a positive. Old Korean karate master, hard school, this is how you did it. Do it. No other way on the planet that we could possibly do this. So early on, I realized I had to do it my way. And that was my start of my journey. So then I started buying, well, back in the day, videotapes and every magazine. I would wait to run to the bookstore, the magazine store, and buy every magazine, spend every penny I had to buy, those ridiculously overpriced magazines that had really nothing in them. And I'd study them and I would practice, and then that's kind of where it all started. And I was able to early on draw a connection for what worked and what didn't work, and started making and thought about that process. Well, how about the martial arts fitting to my strengths or to my weaknesses? So and I didn't realize what I was doing early on. That was just the thing. Upon reflection, I go, God damn, that was genius. I wish I had something to do with it. I just kind of fell apart, and that's how I was able. So later on, let me wrap it up. Is that when I was doing martial arts with Kaju Kambo or with Jeet Kun Do, whatever, I could see the connections. I could see what worked. I could see how it fit together. And it was really easy for me to connect those dots, really easy. To this day, I can go, this way it works, or this way it doesn't, or how can I improve it? So how's that turn around? Is that when, going back when I was saying, I had physical issues. I was in special ed classes because I had learning disabilities. I had to teach myself to read. I had to teach myself how to learn. It helped me to communicate that to other people because I had a real understanding that not everybody learned the same way. You know, they learned, it wasn't, hey, you do it this way. Now I was very in tune with what made them tick and what worked for them. That was sort of the connection, which allowed me to go, I can do this. Or there are certain things I know right, oh shit, I can't do that at all. I'm not even going to try. I know my limitations on things.
That's excellent. Our program, MOTRmeals, usually focuses on nutrition and exercise. Yeah. The amazing thing about the martial arts is that as you're learning a skill set that can one day save your life, yeah, you're also getting great exercise.
Right.
If somebody came in here right now to Primal Gym and said, Jim, I want the ideal martial art for me to get the best exercise I can, is there anything that you would say specifically to that person?
That's a big open thing. There's not one thing. That world to me just doesn't exist. It's often trial and error. Like one diet or one system of something doesn't work. So that it would be a living, breathing, organic process. Now I can offer suggestions, say, why don't we try this? And when someone comes in and they don't know what they want to do, is I'll say, let's just go with boxing. And the reason for boxing is because it covers a lot of things. They'll get in shape. They'll be able to defend themselves at whatever level. You know, so it covers that athleticism, the movement. A lot of people stop moving after years. So if I had to, it would be boxing. Just because I think it covers a lot of bases, as opposed to just grappling or self-defense. Boxing will kind of cover a little bit of everything. In 1 hour, you can do a lot of stuff. Yeah.
One of the other martial arts that you teach here, Jeet Kun Do,
Yeah.
with the direct lineage to Bruce Lee. Can you elaborate a little bit on Jeet Kun Do?
Yeah, okay. JKD, like I've known about since I was a kid, and originally wasn't supposed to be taught to the public. It was very private. Bruce had closed down his schools, so on and so forth. So in the 80s, I guess Dan and Asanto, or late 70s, had kind of let some of the guys, look, you can start putting out some JKD stuff. Because Dan and Asanto was kind of the top guy under Bruce. Tim Tackett I became aware of. He had authored several books in the mid-80s. Paul Vanak, Dan and Asanto, of course, books on different topics, and I bought it, I read them. And there was nobody around doing Jeet Kun Do. So you really had to learn it. How could you learn out of a book? There was, really at the time, you hardly saw any videos on it. And there was a couple guys that maybe came out with a few things. They were way too much money for too little stuff. And years later, I met Tim Tackett, and I did a seminar with him in Austin, Texas, I think it was, something like that. And through a mutual friend, and we became very good buddies. And I've been to his house, who knows how many times, and got to read Bruce Lee's like original notes, you know, copies. They're not the actual copy. That would be worth a lot of money. But I would sit up at night, and he had a study next to I stayed in his house, and I would go into the study, and like a little kid looking at Dirty Dad's Playboy. It wasn't that exciting. It was Bruce Lee's notes. What a nerd, you know. It's how I'm looking at the bit, and you go, this is just so cool. Like if this insight. Now when he's writing these notes, it's hard to really decipher what was he really talking about when you'd say, you know, Taekwondo question mark and a couple of lines. What was he talking? Was he talking about they get rid of the Taekwondo, or was he talking at it? So the Tao Jeet Kun Do, a lot of that was just mishmash and shoved together. But it was a great experience. And as a result, I got to meet Bob Bremer. We were talking about Bob. Bob was an original student of Bruce, known as the ass kicker of Chinatown. And when people would come in, the story is when people come in to fight Bruce, they would fight Bob. He was a crane operator. He started when he was 38 years old. Wow. And he spent a lot of time with Bruce in the backyard. Bob would say, you know, I would go to Bruce's for dinner, and we'd be in the garage. I'd be kicking the bag. You know, I'd be doing this. So Bruce was constantly throwing things at him. Bruce subsequently, he had many different students and taught them differently. That's why there's an issue with Jeet Kun Do. What is the real JKD? Well, he taught Ted Wong, who was a 5'7" Chinese guy, versus Bob Bremer, who's a 5'10", 200-pound white guy from California, a truck driver, crane operator, pardon me. So you're not going to teach him the same way. So Bruce saw that earlier. So it was no cookie cutter way. So that was sort of my lineage. I got to train with Bob for years up till his passing a number of years ago, and with Tim to this day. And it's been a great honor. I've got to meet a who's who in that world. It opened so many doors to me.
Speaking of stories, I feel obligated
Yes.
to ask, at least for one cool Bruce Lee story off the top of your head, if you could think of one real quick.
Well, yeah, okay, so Bob would tell a story. I don't know if it's a cool story, but Bob would tell many stories about Bruce, but the one that always caught my ear was that Bruce said to him, he goes, listen, I am not the fastest, I'm the most deceptive. And I said, wow, that was really insightful, because everyone had pictured him as being the fastest guy on the planet. So he just knew how to hit you where you weren't and knew how to time it. There's so many elements fit into a strike, a kick, a grappling technique, not just speed and power. And I thought that was really insightful. And that quote that Bob had said has always stuck with me. And it stood out more than all the other stories I've ever heard. For one reason, that just resonated more with me. Because people watch me, I'm a big guy, I'm 220 pounds, you know, and people watch me move, and they're like, how's that guy, what? How's that guy move? Well, I'm very deceptive. I'm in camouflage now. You know, but you're right, so, and you can teach your body how to do different things and how to divert them. And it was called like the unguarded moment. You know, Bob would tell a story that Bruce would say, I'm going to hit you in the head. And I don't want you to focus. And Bob would say, and Bob said, Bruce would always be able to hit him in the head. He goes, how are you doing that? And Bruce said, I would always do it when you were thinking about something else. And Bob would say to go, I'm not going to think about anything else. I'm not going to think about anything else. And shit, he hit me again. He goes, that perfect moment when my mind drifted, Bruce somehow knew he was there. And he also tells a story about Bruce was so observant, a student of people, that they were out to dinner. And Bruce would watch this guy, and a man and a woman sit down to dinner, and say, what, he's going to pick up the spoon with his left hand. And he would pick up the spoon with his left hand. How did he know that? And then Bob had a great quote, and he goes, who told him he could get that good? Who told him, you know, he could break all these boundaries. And he just believed always early on that he could. I thought those were some really kind of insightful, cool stories, you know. More so than he kicked someone's ass. Yeah, that's easy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.